Today we get to talk about projection. I'm gonna write the words to that because we've got I don't know. There's a mama, projection.
Oh, right.
It's the pet. It's not mama. It's
Fiddler on the Roof, isn't it?
Papa. Oh, tradition.
Tradition.
Yes,
Fiddler on the Roof.
name that tune. Right, so projection is what we get to play with today, and we have been playing with it in the first two symposia, and so now this is a more specific way to get to it, which is lovely. The whole persona interview, we'll get into that. How to do it, what's that about, why would you do it? It's one of the tools I use over and over, so, and when I forget to use it, like yesterday, I remembered, oh, Julie, this is a persona you're talking to. And it wasn't about me. It was my client, but it was this opening that was just like, oh, thank you, whoever made this up. So some of you are taking Gestalt work, and you're all taking it. So there are going to be vast overlaps with what you're learning. So think states, that's what we're talking about, the states of consciousness, the states on the inner map. And to do a little review first, remember that there is no there.
With personas?
There is no reality out here.
Okay.
Like that everything that we're doing, sitting here, we're all just doing our best to predict what's gonna happen next. Like all the stuff that all the experience, all the knowledge, and we're just showing up thinking, well, if I sit in my chair, hopefully I'm going to learn something that's worth my time, right? That putting it all together to come up together into this co-creative reality, but there really isn't a thing out here that's making you feel scared, that's making you feel sexual. You are the source, and if you can remember that, well, good luck with that. Like, as a therapist, that's pretty much what we're all trying to do. If I'm your client, I really want you to agree with my reality. And I'm going to be very engaging and good at trying to convince you that my reality is accurate, because it really is terrible. It's so hard. Life is really hard. Or, those people are scary. The world's coming apart. Or, oh my God, can you believe those? They're so amazing. Like all the storytelling we do to ourselves and with each other, and as your clients to you as a therapist. So it's tricky to step into those realities and then not get pulled into them as if they're the truth. It's kind of like stepping into some rushing water, right? Like being able to put your feet in to feel it, but to not get pulled in and pulled under. And that's not easy if you're going to feel the water, like to feel what does it feel like to be in that, but to not get pulled into it as if, oh yeah, that's the truth. So having some place out here to anchor so that you can come back out again, like, oh right, like I thought that was true. So with this particular person, I've been seeing him for a while. He's in his early 40s, and it really looks like he's just a total screw up. That's what it looks like. He's very convincing. I was convinced, like it just looks, because he probably has ADHD, or he probably has some terrible neurological something. And his family's like, oh, let's go take him to someplace in Boston to get him tested again, because we had that other test, but that wasn't really that helpful, so let's get a different test so we can figure out what's really going on with him. And I was like, okay, like maybe that's true. I kept saying, maybe that, it could be true. I don't know, maybe it's true. Well, by yesterday, after seeing him for, about 9 months, I started thinking, maybe that's true. And then, so I'm going to leave you as a teaser, and then I remembered about unconscious commitments and personas. ...
So you're not going to tell us the end to tell you?
Not yet. Hopefully I'll remember, because I started this way at a different time when I forgot to tell you the punchline.
Yes. We won't forget the
Chocolates. It wasn't.
Yeah, there was chocolate. There was the chocolate bar. That's right. You remembered, Rhonda. So projection. Here we are in this common bath of each other's projections. What do you do with that? And overall, I would want to start with a big dose of compassion that we're doing the best we can, and we're trying to predict this crazy thing called reality from our past. So give yourselves a lot of space that when you get pulled in, like, okay, of course, like I was getting pulled in, and yeah, and who knows what's true? I don't know what's true with this guy, but maybe there's a different way. So a lot of compassion, a lot of space to breathe and know that if there's a story that sounds, that isn't a happy story, if the story isn't one of these, just be careful, because reactive brain has a special investment in creating stories that sound really true, because they're based on our survival. So what's in our bodies that's really going to get triggered and come forward is so entrenched because we learned it really fast. I love that Hendricks call trauma rapid learning. Like we learn it really fast and it doesn't want to go away. I mean, it's in our bodies. I had a big bike accident. I can tell you all kinds of things about that. I learned it really fast in a few seconds. And that, I don't know if it will ever leave me. It's like, okay, because that was fast. So then I carry that around with me, that experience. That's part of what I'm applying to my reality. Is it true? Who knows? But again, a lot of compassion, a lot of space for yourself to just be with this. All right. So, enough with the beginnings of this. What I want to tell you about is this great version of how this works. Some of you have seen this before. This is straight from Gay and Katie Hendricks. So blessings to them wherever they might be right now. So imagine this. Imagine that you come in. There you were. Just imagine each other right now. It's kind of fun to do. Little babies. So I'm just transporting yourself and you all into little babies in my head right now. Spitting up and wiggling your fingers. And, right, you came in, and you came in with something that was you. And in my book, in my belief system, that was pure joy, that was up here, that was coming in from all of this expansion. And then you came into, you had to sort of fit yourself into this material body. Like you were alive, and you had to come into this place. But essence, there you are. So great, all is good, except for then, right, there's always the something that happens. Because you are in a material world. Now, everything else you do as a therapist could come down to this. Because the some things that happen, we want to make something out of it. Like, oh, something happened where it took extra time because people were coming in, right? Okay, you had to apologize to me. And because all that happened was something that happened. Under a different set of circumstances, I could have been like, oh my God, you're late, right? I could have made something out of it. But it's like, well, I've learned over time that I don't really want to do that because all that happened was something that happened. So I'm very interested in living from this because I love living in this. Like, la la la, life is but a dream. So great. But if something happens and catches my attention, catches me, kind of caught something in my body, right, then I'm going to have a feeling about that. And I have a feeling, and I feel angry. That Lenny. Thanks for being late. That Lenny, I can't, right, I'm having a feeling of whatever it is, and then I want to, blame you. We'll get to that. Or I could just feel my feeling. And if all I did was feel my feeling, I could go happily back into essence. La la la, it's just a little wave of, something happened, I didn't expect it. How do I feel? Scared, mad, sad. It reminds me of being 5 and having someone come in late, right? Whatever. And I can get to go back to essence. Or if I'm a little baby and I don't have much of many layers in my body yet of things that happen. Okay, so someone doesn't come, I'm crying, they're not coming, I'm feeling something, angry, afraid. And then they come, and then they say, oh, little baby. Wouldn't this be great? Oh, little baby, you get to feel all your feelings. And I go, oh, good, then I'll just go right back into essence. It's great, it's a great setup. Works really well, except for this part. That generally, up to now, and maybe we're all changing as a species, I think we're getting there. Often, I don't know what to do with these darn things. And so I look around and I say, well, how do they deal with feelings? Oh, my dad doesn't actually express. Okay, I'll try that out. I just won't express. Or my mom smokes. I never smoked, thankfully. My mom does other things, so that she doesn't have to have feelings, and she looks pretty much like this, but now and then she blows up. Okay, I'll do that. In other words, I look around, and that's how I start to develop personas. Right, so that if I don't have a feeling, because the feeling is too much, it's too overwhelming. So let's take a moment and really appreciate feelings. So tell me, why don't you want to have a feeling? Why would you do all the other things instead of have a feeling?
Takes effort to feel feelings.
Takes effort. So what's the effort like?
Sitting with that feeling.
It's just kind of putting your attention on that kind of, ugh, I like, Why else? Why else don't you want to have a feeling?
Well, at least at this point, it's because we've drawn conclusions about that. I think that when you're a baby, I don't think that would be true, but at this point,
Like what kind of conclusions?
well, like if I feel angry, I'm like aggressive and doing something, gonna do something bad.
I'll do
might
something
just
bad. I'll be out of control. If
Yeah,
I have a
you won't
feeling,
like
I won't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Be out of control.
I'll show some ugly dark part of myself.
Oh,
so.
right, that'd be terrible.
Exactly.
Don't let them see that. Yeah, right. So things will happen, negative social whatevers, if
Yeah.
I show my feelings, or even if I have my
Yeah,
feelings.
when you're a baby, you don't necessarily think that immediately. First time you have it, probably. You just have it.
So why else? Why else don't you want to have
Well,
a
I
feeling?
think from what comes to mind is I can either see that it makes other people uncomfortable, or I get punished for them.
So you look around, other people are like, whoa, no, baby Diane, she's crying too much. So quit it.
Yeah.
Well, it could be even simpler. 3 out of 5 of them don't feel good.
Mad and sad and scared don't feel good
Don't
because
feel good. So then I don't want that.
I don't want to have that kind of adrenalized experience, or the sobbing is
Yeah.
hard, or the just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So just put my attention away.
If I've had enough grief or sadness, then there might be this like sense of a never-ending pit.
If I
of
go
despair.
there, who knows?
Or the existential abyss, like it's bottomless.
It's
I'll get
bottomless.
stuck there.
I'll get stuck in those emotions. So if I really let myself go there, I could just get totally stuck there. Yeah, these are great reasons. I could go crazy. People really
like
believe that. If I let myself feel my feelings, I mean, I talk to people in my office. Well, I don't know, you might go crazy, let's find out. It's not really that reassuring, but you know, it's like, but that's never happened yet, but I don't know. Because of course, it's like, oh, I don't know, it's this unknown territory, especially if I've grown up in a family where I wasn't supposed to. I could go crazy, I could explode, I could be lost forever.
Could also be like, I know that there's some things I don't like to experience and feel because they remind me of like negative things about my parents. Like, I don't want to be like that. Sure.
Oh, I see, right, yeah. If I let myself feel those things, I'm gonna be
I'm
like,
gonna
just like
be
my my mom.
Usually my mom.
Oh, yeah, don't want to be like her.
So these are basically like Gestalt interjects or interjections, right?
Well, you'll have to say more, because I don't know exactly what.
It's like a belief that doesn't come from you, that was passed down from society or primary caregivers.
That
you,
loop
you
in your
don't
brain.
know that it's not yours. Like, oh, if I show vulnerability, I'll be perceived as weak. Where does that come from? Who did you get that from? Because you aren't born thinking that.
Right. And I would add to this, I would say it's that and more, in that many people have the experience of having some feelings and having it not go well. If they start to have it. And so imagine that little 3-year-old who has a really huge experience. Their father leaves, or something terrible happens. Their little baby brother's born. They don't know how to enter into that experience, and so it just feels like it's consuming. It takes them over. So to have some idea, like, oh, there's a really good reason we don't go here, but this is the place, everybody, and I'll come back to it over and over for you as a therapist, you as a person, that if you can take care of this right here, this is the thing. This is the make it or break.
Julie, would you say it is, underneath it all, it's the effects, why we don't want to feel our feelings is ultimately the effects it has in a relationship, like with another connection with ourselves, with another person. It's like we're going to lose that. Just, anyway.
Yes.
A million ways we could say.
Yeah, it disrupts things.
Yeah.
We're just going along, everything's fine. Now I just had this big emotion, it goes through my body, I feel really enraged. I can't tell Meg that, because who knows what she'll do with that, so no, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that could be a 10-year-old, maybe a 3-year-old is not quite there.
Right.
But absolutely paying attention to what happens in relationships and how much that disrupts. If I have a self, if I have this authentic stuff going on, well, because people around us have the same thing happening, right? So they grew up with the same thing. I don't know if it's universal, I just know something about my experience in this culture. So if you're having big feelings, it's my mirror neurons, my open loop limbic system is gonna have that come into my sense of, oh, Sherry's having a feeling. Oh, now I feel sad. There's my unprocessed sadness. I don't want to have that. Hey, Sherry, will you stop having, let's distract you from having that feeling. Let's do something different, because I don't want to have my feeling either. So if we all got better at this, we don't have to spend so much time here. So again, breathing, it's a good time to practice right now. A body, I have a body. What is it that I don't want to be feeling? Could I let myself tune into that? See, here's what you can do for the common good. We have the be an activist, choose love. We could have be an activist, have your feelings. help all of us deal with the opioid
Epidemic.
crisis, right? Yeah, have your feelings. I'll have mine too. It's also that we don't, and there's so many diagnostic categories that you can bring back to this. Why am I depressed? Well, because what am I depressing? Why am I anxious? Well, because what don't I want to be feeling underneath that just is turning into this kind of agitation, anger, fear. That's right. What am I addicted to? Why am I addicted? Well, because I don't want to be feeling blah, blah, blah. Right? So it goes on and on. So this place that you're learning about and doing so much with meditation, mindfulness, and bodyfulness, that's what will shift this whole thing. And for those times when it hasn't shifted the whole thing, the next thing that will happen out of this is personas will develop. Now, personas, here's some characteristics. They're all from reactive brain.
Always and all.
No matter how
Always
nice
all,
they are?
always all.
Okay.
Even
So, say more, Kim. for example, the exception is.
No, it's true. It just strikes me because some personas are actually really nice.
Yes, very nice.
And very like everyone.
Very nice.
Not nice like that, Julie. Like
No.
actually nice.
Well, no, they, otherwise, I mean, essence, right? If I'm enjoying, I'm like, ha, I probably am pretty easy to get along with.
Right.
But essence is all in creative brain. And there are many states of creative brain, just like there's many states of reactive brain.
Right.
But a persona unto itself, as defined,
Is always
reactive brain. So good place, so like, it took me a while to get that.
Yeah.
Oh, and as you look at the inner map and you start playing with your own personas, you probably have a persona, or many, several, in every of these states of consciousness.
of the
Okay.
reactive brain center.
Of reactive brain. You probably have, well, I'll just speak for myself. I've got my righteous one, I've got my exploder, I've got my, oh no! And so I can go through, and you too, because you've learned how to handle these states of consciousness in our culture, so that you can find them. And so I guess to define a persona a little bit more, and then I'll go back. A persona, right, a mask, it's a part that isn't really your authentic self. It's a part that you've looked around and you've learned and modeled after someone else to be like them. There can be the positive personas that get you lots of social approval. Gay and Katie call those are the number 1 personas, and then there's the number 2 personas. I love that, who get you in trouble. They might be the crappier personas. And often, and here's a way to think about this. Essence is here. Here's another dimensional way to think. There's essence. The number 1 personas, the socially acceptable ones, are pretty far away from essence. The socially unacceptable ones are a lot closer. So these are the ones that we do because, it's a new day and sure, everything's great. And then we get really tired. Sure, I can do it. Okay, yeah, okay, not so happy about doing it. Okay, now I'm gonna have these other personas show up. So in other words, you can start to see how this works. So these are the hero personas, and these are the villain and victim personas. The ones that are a little harder to be around.
I see what you're saying.
Okay?
But they're closer to essence.
But they're closer to essence.
Well, so I wonder if, I can see how they're closer to essence, and also I think the lens that I'm looking at through is they're closer to breaking through into essence. Because if I'm pissy, there's something to work with.
Yeah.
If I'm just happy,
Fine.
super masky, and there's just
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let anything intrude.
Huh.
I'm just thinking this through as I'm talking. But if a client comes in and everything's fine, but if everything's really shitty, I'm pissed.
And how this shows up in an office for me is, no, everything was great growing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Really?
So it's degrees of reactive, how you said something to work with is kind of how you can degrees of
Good
how
point.
reactive.
Yeah, more energy.
Uh-huh.
So you've put on the positive ones to hide yourself, not only from the insecurity of just being yourself, but also from the negative, the number 2s that you're really afraid of.
Did you?
I've thought of this before, but I didn't have this map. When I was working with methadone treatment, it was those clients who had had brushes with death or who were really struggling to figure out who they could be, either on methadone or without opiates, that were the ones that I really enjoyed working with. Those ones that were like, oh, life is good, everything's fine, I don't really need to be here,
Yeah.
that I didn't enjoy working with at all, because they didn't,
Where are they?
they weren't there.
Yeah.
They weren't present to go, to play with me.
Yeah, and get to really engage.
Engage.
And so, notice we're all walking around doing this, presenting our best selves, right? Beginning of relationships. Sure, I'll do whatever you want to, honey. Let's go try that. Let's go try that. And then over time, we just can't maintain that stuff. And then the other parts of us come forward, and then that's often a shock to these people that got used to us being so nice all the time, and so amenable and willing. But we get tired. The hero personas are not sustainable. It's just too tiring. So to start to see going back to this, if you can start to see personas as being all in here with this overall sense that this is all true of all of us. Because people don't like these parts. We don't like those that showed up and I exploded and now you know what a bitch I am.
Yeah.
Right? We don't like it. Like, oh, see, this is who you really are. Well, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who. That's what I hear. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who, blah. Fill in the blank. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there it is. So I love the map because it's saying, look, this is a whole human.
Yeah.
And over time for you and then for your clients to start to get to know these parts and make friends with them. And that's what the persona work is so lovely about, is to say, oh, these are parts of me and I don't have to reject them anymore. Because as long as I'm rejecting them, I'm adding power through my resistance. Like, that's not me, it's you. I'm putting it out there, making it, well, I want to put those people into jail, I want to kill those people, and I want to be sure that you all know it's not me, it's somebody else. But then in relationship, it's too hard to do that. So the more we can love and cherish all parts of us, the better off we are. Our anxiety can go down, we don't have to spend so much time trying to hide those monster parts. And that's why I love the persona interview so much, because it starts to make what was so kind of abhorrent much more endearing.
So that's been my question when I've seen the persona interviews, because it's only one persona that you've worked on. Is that right? Like when we do the intentional learning community, and everyone has a persona name and stuff like that, that's only one persona?
Oh, right. Yes, so you all have kind of jumped in at the end of a process. So what you haven't experienced yet is what I will show you right now. Just focusing on the persona interview itself. Except for Joan, we found out.
It's actually Jean.
Oh, Jean,
It
sorry.
is Jean. No,
Jean.
no, it is Jean.
Thank you for
Yeah.
gravelly voiced Jean. I called her Joan. I don't know why I wanted
Because
to
I
be
called her
Joan.
Joan.
And
Oh,
then
you did call her Joan.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I discovered
Really?
mine too that day.
Oh, and what was
Yeah.
yours?
Black Master.
Oh, yeah. I think I don't have enough of these, but let's see.
The scary ones.
Can I ask you a question while you're passing them out?
Yes.
So for the reactive brain side, do we potentially have two personas for each one? Like
Oh,
a
yeah.
good reaction to anger and the bad reaction to anger?
Well, what is good? What do you mean by good?
Well, the good reaction would be like, I don't know, being really understanding or something,
Oh, okay.
Like, and the bad reaction would be like, get really angry. I guess that's not persona.
Could just be pure essence expression.
Got it, okay.
But yeah, I mean, as I go up and down this, so I think of this as being an elevator. You saw my Halloween costume, which is my friendly elevator operator self. It's part of my life purpose, is I go up and down the elevator with me and with you. And so now we're gonna hang out on the despair floor, beep. and, you know, open the doors and the despair personas are gonna be sitting there, waiting. Okay, we can interact with them. And then, and I don't think they go away. I think that they have a reason to be there. But, okay, now let's go back in the elevator and let's go back up to appreciation. We can appreciate those despair persona, right? So to have some ability to move around from state to state. And these personas, the more you can make friends with them, the more agility you can have with that. It doesn't have to be such a big damn deal. So let me show you. So when you come to Essentials, and Sherry, you're welcome. Anyway, I don't have enough of these sheets, so you'll just have to use your notebook paper right now. So you'll get a piece of paper and it looks like this. So you can draw some circles for yourself. And the instruction is, start listing some of your personas. And when you do, list them, put them on the top half of the circle.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was otherwise occupied, can you say that again?
Yes, I'd be happy to, for you and for Jean. Start listing some of your personas, put their names up here. Okay, so that's one of my personas, the workaholic. I've got a Mr. Fix-It. I love him. Very handy. Right, so start listing some of your personas that are on, and just put them at the top, like a little exploder. And unfortunately, you don't have your partners with you because they would be very helpful. They will tell you what your personas are. You phone a friend, they will tell you. And especially see if you, so there's the number ones that are nice, but especially dig in there and find some that you don't really like so well. Now, starting to interlace this with diagnosis. Those things that you are diagnosing people about, or yourself, or your friends, they're personas. So, in other words, I've got my depressed persona, that's Agnes Angst. I was so happy to find her because I really thought I just was a depressed person. And I found her. Like, oh, so I could do something with her. I could start to interview her. What a relief. And you'll see that in a minute about how that can go. So if you've got some big flagrant symptom, you're like, oh my God, that'll never go away. But hopefully nobody will ever find out about it. Well, try it out as a persona. The OCD one, the, what else? The perfectionist. Perfect, thank you. What else?
What's
Not
it
good
called?
enough.
What
Not
do
good
you call
enough.
that woman with the whip who dresses? What do you call that?
Dominatrix.
Dominatrix.
Kim is a dominatrix.
Like Andrew, my spiritual teacher, he did persona work, but not for nice reasons. It's just like, but he did do. Isn't that crazy? I should tell you about it.
Yeah.
How you can cause harm and damage with persona work.
The dark side of persona work. Well, hopefully we won't get to that today. I don't think we have enough time, but we'll find out. So list some, especially again, if you've got a gnarly one that, so I so appreciate Jean coming along. She's, now I have a whole different appreciation. But one of those symptoms, especially, you don't have to tell us, but start to bring it to your own awareness.
Sorry, can you, I don't know what the gene thing is, I think I'm missing.
Oh, sorry about
That's
that.
okay. Are we supposed to know what
No,
that means?
you're not supposed to know that.
Oh, okay.
Diane talked about it a little bit in ILC.
Okay,
and
no, that's
so
fine.
I was
just didn't know
jumping
if I
right
was-
over.
Okay.
Will you speak about Jean?
Well, we were doing, in triadic supervision,
Uh-huh.
we were talking about parts work, Gestalt work, 'cause we just had a class and learned how to do it, and I just was using like the example of my sugar addiction. Like I
Okay,
cannot
got it.
stop sugar. And then so Jolie did the persona
Gotcha.
interview with the sugar, whose name addict, whose name is Jean.
Gene, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Cool, no,
Thank you for asking.
So I'm glad that I have that example because I'm having a lot of trouble connecting any of my personas to the consciousness.
Oh, yes, we're throwing
so
you
sugar
into the
addict,
deep end.
Which one? Is that?
Oh, should we connect them to consciousness?
Does it?
Great. Okay, well, why not? Let's try that. So, what level of consciousness does Jean live at?
Oh yeah, she's in anger. Yeah, she's in a lot of anger.
Sherry, what's another one, if you want us to try to do it with you?
I have one that's I'm responsible for everything. It's my responsibility.
It's all my perfect. Oh, yeah. Endless. Yeah. Right, that sounds very positive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's one of those hero personas that sound like they're not in reactive brain, but I would put that right in pride. Like, because I'm better than you are, because I can take care of this, you little whatever.
I wonder if it has more fear actually now. That
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
Great.
Okay.
Great. I
Right,
think
so
hero
that's-
personas are all
conscious.
yes, often coming from fear.
It's
I
like
feel
that
out of control.
codependent, like as long as I take on all the responsibility, I can make it fine and
Okay.
you won't leave.
Yeah.
Or,
Great.
So
I can
with
control it.
so like it's possible we could be making a list of personas and they all could be one of these. Like if we have one thing that we like, right?
One special state of consciousness.
that we like don't want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can continue, like at this point, having done this for many years, I don't know how many personas I have, but I have a lot, so,
Right.
yeah, they will continue to follow.
Yeah, because the more you think about it, the more you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Plus, you can be in those states, and then you can wonder, oh, what state of or what persona am I in right now?
And when you do the persona work, do you pick the one you like the least?
Well, that'd be getting the most
That'd be
bang for your buck.
I know, which I got it.
Your buck, yes. But you could.
I will.
So let me demonstrate the persona interview. Some of you have seen this before, but I will show you. So would somebody be willing to have a persona interviewed? Persona.
sure.
Okay, Meg. Great. So
Which one?
yeah, so you can choose. So why don't I'm going to take this from you. Did you pick one?
Sure. Let's see. Ooh, how about, they're all good. I would work with all of them. They're all terribly good. Yeah, how about my body shamer?
Body shamer.
That was mine.
Great. Oh, so that was yours?
A version of that, so it'll be interesting to see.
So, great. So put your stuff down. And should I just call your persona body shamer?
Sure.
Do you have a different
I
name
don't
you
have
prefer?
it didn't, nothing came out.
All right, well, so it could develop.
Sure.
Now, you could sit and do the body shamer, or you could stand. So what would be, if you were totally in the body shamer, getting a little warmer?
Yeah, I am.
How would you be in your body?
If I were the body shamer.
Yeah. Great. So this part of asking the person to assume the stance,
Okay.
pretty much, or assume the body posture of the persona, helps already pull somebody into the state of consciousness. So great. And then I'm going to keep asking them, or starting these sentence stems with body shamer, because it helps support somebody staying in that state.
Okay.
So you really want to be answering from the body shamer.
Okay.
Okay? So, body shamer, what's the most important thing to you?
Looking great and feeling good.
Sure. Got it. I just saw a breeze go by and cake and out behind you. That's right. And body shamer, what are you most proud of?
Looking good and feeling great.
Yeah, right. Body shamer, who did you learn your style from?
Ooh, I learned it from an ex-partner.
Oh.
It's okay if I cry.
Shall not
this,
be
right?
named.
Shall not be named.
But do you say, is it okay if you can cry? Is that what you just asked?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just asking a rhetorical question.
Well, good point, but you can, so for our audience here, starting to break through the defense. Okay, so the questions are designed for that, and so as the feelings start to come forward, absolutely you get to feel what you're feeling. Body shamer, when did you make your first appearance?
In that relationship.
And what else was happening that this persona decided to come out then?
In a desire to feel wanted, needed, loved. Yeah. Outside pressures, but my internal reasons were those.
Body shamer, when you're around, what feelings does your presence keep Meg from feeling?
I think mostly sadness. Maybe a little bit of anger. I think mostly sadness.
Great. Body shamer, what are you most afraid of?
Not being loved or not being good enough. And not liking myself. Like I think there's like some belief there that's so deep that I'm afraid of not only other people not liking myself, I'm afraid of not liking myself.
Body shamer, what do you really want?
To feel, or it's not a feeling, to believe that to feel confident to believe that I look and feel the way that I want to, that my partner finds me attractive.
And if those things happened, what would you get?
More love, more acceptance.
So it's possible you'd want all of that.
Yeah.
More love and more acceptance.
Yeah. I feel like there's something else in there, but I don't know what it is. Not sure. Trying to get this sense that it's not a complete thought, but I don't know what else is in there.
Good. Body shaming, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate your time. And then, good time to shake it off. So that you know that's a persona, that's not you.
Yeah. Good reminder.
Yeah. So back out of your body again.
So when you're doing this with people, even if they're talking to you unconsciously from a persona state, which they most likely are.
Which is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Do you engage with them without like any kind of psychoeducation about that process? I guess because I'm just wondering about the shaking it off part and like separating that persona from their essence. Like how do you?
Well, great question. And meanwhile, how are you doing right now? What was that like for you?
It was good to be reminded where it came from and what I need to work on about it. And now I think maybe I feel angry because I suddenly have this tension right here that I did not have when we started.
Right on. So it's possible this persona keeps you from feeling angry too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's some heaviness in my chest too. Yeah, I think those are really tied up. Anger and sadness about that.
Before I answer your question, I would want you to just have a little time to feel what you're feeling. Because what we're doing with this is we're mucking about in the unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these tools are mucking about in the unconscious. which is great in terms of transformation, not so great if you're the human being within which the mucking is occurring.
Right.
You breathe and give yourself a little bit of time here, maybe a drink of water or something. What was that like for you all to observe and witness? I'm thinking about something, but I don't know what.
Well, thank you, Megan. It was powerful because I share that persona too, and mine is like really young. I started really super young with my mom, so I kind of envy you. You're starting later, some sick, twisted way, you know.
Well, it's a good question that I didn't belabor, but now as you're sitting, how are you doing right now?
Good. Maybe it's actually part of holding in the tears too, so I might just let myself cry a little.
Because most personas get going before 18. So is there any seed that you can?
I mean, the immediate thing that hit me, I was probably like 21. Sure. Yeah, I guess I could maybe tie it to like an age. What do you want me to say about that?
If anything comes to your mind.
Yeah, I think, how do I say without like, just briefly, yeah, after my mom died, I was young, I was 9, it was traumatic, had no idea how to deal with that. When I look back, I put on a bunch of weight. I was like a normal sized kid and then put on a bunch of weight, and I think there was like a weight battle, that started then, I think. Yeah.
Great, because the persona is trying to solve an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing the best it can.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just it's trying to just get through life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it can look like, it could look like the solution is around battling your weight,
Yeah.
when really that persona might have been trying to just get up out of bed.
Yeah.
In terms of what are the feelings it's trying to not feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that might sound really obscure, so we'll get back to that in a moment. That what it looks like the persona is doing is not really the thing. And so it's confusing that if somebody comes to you and says, here's the problem, but the problem is a solution to a different problem.
Like the answer is not helping therapists try to figure out how to lose weight.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
now, let's talk about your body shaming.
Right.
We'll try to get you to stop shaming yourself about your body. Okay, let's work on that.
Right.
But that's not the
Right.
thing. That's not the source of it.
Right.
And that makes us very confusing as a therapist.
Well, it's confusing, plus you, just because I have a totally different body shaming persona, but I can tell, plus you end up feeling like you're failing again and again and again because you're trying to deal with the persona issue.
Right.
And
Instead of
and you're
solving the
actually
underlying.
failing at it, which isn't a good way, isn't a great experience. So,
But again, very seductive. So the man I was describing earlier, what's the problem? Well, he can't get his shit together. Like, that's the problem. So let's help him. Like, let's figure it out. Let's do this and that, and come on, and well, until I understood that that's a persona, I was trying to solve the wrong thing with him.
Mm-hmm.
This really has me thinking about, I've been resistant but also open, if that makes any sense, to somatic body issues, like pain and things like that, not being related to feelings. But the more that I'm going into it, I'm realizing that, gosh, it really might just be the repressing of feelings chronically over a long period of time.
that's cool.
Which is like challenging the way that I'm choosing to heal, but that's kind of, this is pretty much just showing that.
Yeah, I wonder about you interviewing your chronic pain persona.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing about fibromyalgia is that it's mostly women, and no one knows why that is. And I have to wonder if that has something to do with the fact that women, I mean, men have to repress some things too, but I don't know, my brain's just really excited about this.
Yeah, good. How about, shall I interview your?
Now?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Now, in terms of you getting the most out of this today, probably would be useful for you to do a couple, like a persona interview with someone.
I did.
You have already, and you have, but some of you have not done that before. So, so I'll demonstrate this one, and then we'll pause and have just people do some interviews, just so you get the feeling for it. We won't prolong that, but just use about 10 minutes for that.
Right. My
So,
chronic pain persona doesn't want to stand up.
yeah, great. So will you go into your chronic pain persona?
Sure. So I can put this all down. It's not comfortable, that's for sure.
Yeah, so see if you can get as uncomfortable as you can.
Yeah. All right.
And do you have a name?
Well, I think it's actually just life is too hard.
Life is too hard. Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Life is too hard. Already branched out. So life is too hard. What's the most important thing to you?
Sleep.
Mhm. And life is too hard. What are you most proud of?
Nothing.
Will you just dig in there a little bit more or something? You have overcome odds, for example, or you endure.
Yeah, I would suppose that would be it. Like that I can push through it.
You can push through it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And life is too hard. When did you make your first appearance?
6 years ago.
And I just want to check, since I didn't with Meg, can you go back in time to a time before you were 18? Is there
Yeah.
Were there seeds there?
Yeah, yeah, in
And
high school.
When was that? What was going on?
I wasn't in pain, but dang, I was feeling so good today.
Ruined it.
I didn't really have a lot of trustworthy friends, and people bullied me a lot. And I was alone a lot.
Was there some circumstance that was?
My mom went on business trips a lot, so she would leave me at home for like a week straight. Which I thought was cool at the time because I could drink beers and have friends over, but I don't think that was.
Yeah. Great. And so life is too hard. Who did you learn your style from?
Probably my mom. Yeah.
And life is too hard. When you're around, what feelings do you keep plenty from people?
Despair.
Well, life is too hard. It looks like you might be good at despair.
Yeah.
So you might actually help her feel despair.
I don't know.
So let's try the other ones.
Maybe anger.
Maybe anger.
It's the immobilized something.
Immobilized.
I feel
okay.
immobilized.
Okay, so you're making sure that something is immobilized. You do a good job of that.
Yeah.
And so anger is immobilized. Anything else that's immobilized? How about sexuality?
Yeah.
So anger, sexuality. Looks like you can feel afraid,
Yeah.
afraid, despair, got that down,
Yeah.
sadness you got. Probably not joy.
No.
Okay, all right, so, so you keep her from feeling, mad and sexual and happy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, that was well done. Yeah. It's a really good time to appreciate a persona because that's a lot. I mean, some personas will take care of all of them, but this was a really important bunch to make sure that Lenny did not feel. So right on, life is too hard. Thank you for helping her with those, because what else could she have done, right? So life is too hard. What are you most afraid of?
Life.
What's so scary about life?
It's painful.
Uh-huh. And something else, like what's scary about anger and sexuality and joy?
Well, I had a very physically abusive man in our home.
So it was so scary.
Not being able to do anything. Not being able to I guess maybe not being able to challenge him, maybe.
Right, so you learned how to put on the brakes, especially about your anger and kind of any, yeah, so you stopped yourself.
Yeah, I think the sexuality is more about school. I think I got asked a lot about like sexual partners.
Yeah, so life is too hard. You really solved that, and both of those. Just kind of close in, pull in. Life is hard. You don't have to. Yeah, that's a great solution. Life is too hard. What is it you really want?
To feel safe.
Say more. What's the safe feeling?
To be able to trust and trust other people. It's even a deeper trust, like trust of reality in general.
Yeah. Whew. Great. Yeah, and my toss is maybe to be able to trust you.
Yeah.
And trust your life energy.
Yeah.
Well, life is too hard to thank you very much for talking to me. Again, I really appreciate all that you did to take care of Lenny. Yeah. Great. Thanks. And again, good time to shake it off, because that's a persona, and it can look like it's the truth. Right? You could go into a despair state and be stuck there and say, see, the truth is life is just too hard.
Yeah.
But actually, the life is too hard is trying to keep you, protect you from feeling all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to shut your body down. How about breathing a little bit? How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm kind of sick of crying.
Well, I think this is a really great example of if the way you're expressing emotion isn't moving it through, it's probably because you're trying to express the wrong emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I did just tell my mom where to stick it the other day for the first time in my life, so that got a little messy, but.
So looking for anger and sexual feelings, to let those come to the surface. And I
Yeah.
put those kind of together into like this whole red energy expression, like, rah!
Yeah.
Mom, don't go again. Hey,
Yeah.
you
Don't let this
abusive
asshole back
guy,
in the house.
get the hell out of here. And hey, I want to have sexuality because I'm an adolescent and that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff. Like, wow.
Yeah, totally.
So how's your body doing right now?
It's tense, but Yeah, I was just thinking the other day about the importance of blowing off steam. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely shut that down because I think I'm taking care of myself by shutting it down. Yeah.
Go ahead. Do we have time for a question?
Of course.
Okay, so you just said, so I cry a lot too. You just said, like, after you said, I cry a lot, you said you may not be expressing the right emotion. So that caught my attention.
Good.
Because, right, you know, they come in and they're crying, isn't that good?
All right, there's
But
expression happening.
There's expression happening. But I kind of, for some reason, I get that, but I don't know why I get it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Just put it in there somewhere.
Well, I think I was only allowed to cry. That was the only one I got.
So again, notice this is like this sort of wacky reality where we're interfacing with each other, but with clients, because it looks like the problem is despair. So let's work on despair and help you with despair and keep crying because that'll help shift it. But that's not the issue. That was the solution to the issue. That'll mess you up.
So, so Lenny, if you were to go to, because we have classes together, so
Yeah.
you know, we see each other.
Yeah.
So if you were to like go to the other, the non-crying emotion, what's?
Oh, I'd have to get really angry
Yeah.
outwardly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is scary as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really good.
Yeah. Uh-huh, there you go. Great. Next step.
So couldn't it also be that to some degree that, I hope you don't mind we're talking about, that you
No.
think your fear is that anger is what's under there, but it isn't, you don't actually know what's under it. Isn't that possible?
Oh, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
isn't that kind of how
Yeah.
it tends to work? We're like, well, then I'm gonna get really super furious, but maybe that's not actually.
Yes,
what's
these are,
there.
but we're giving ourselves some clues. Like the persona interviews will give you clues. Because going back to that first chart, right, of the feelings, that's where it all goes awry.
Right,
I don't want to feel what I'm feeling.
right.
Then I'm going to make a persona so that I don't feel what I'm feeling. The persona looks like it's having feelings.
Right, now I get that.
So then, yeah, for sure.
just
Do
feel
I
like-
know for sure?
I feel like
this?
we
No.
just, sometimes we have these ideas about what's gonna come out that is part of what supported the persona and isn't necessarily even what's gonna come out.
Who knows? Who knows? But I think we're barking up the right tree.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, in this case. I haven't asked another question. So about the persona interviews. So, you make it look really easy. But I notice when you say do it with someone here, to be honest, some of my personas that are like super
Yeah.
scary to me,
Yeah.
I don't feel safe to do it with almost anyone, including myself if I was doing it with me. Because there's levels to which you're responding that it scares me that I don't know how to do. Right? Like I'm really being, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? It
I
feels
appreciate that.
dangerous.
I appreciate
A little
that.
bit.
Yes, but keep in mind, I don't feel safe. Could be a showstopper for you. Or it could just be like, I'm scared about doing this. You
Yeah,
get
like
to be
I have
scared.
certain personas where I feel scared. I don't want to, like they're like, I mean, no offense to anyone in this room. I feel like very wounded around having worked with them in therapy and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and never gotten support that's really helped.
Oh.
You know.
From a
But I-
therapist to throw down.
I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. I literally am not kidding. You know. And so, like, but beyond just me personally, because you didn't just follow this thing. There were times where you questioned her more, and there were times like, and I know that's experience, but is there, like, what gives you a clue to be like when she said despair, and you're like, it seems like this persona
He's good at that.
is good at that. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily thought to say that. You know what I mean? Like, what gives you those?
So I hear that you're scared. And you get to be scared, and you get to not do the ones that you don't want to do.
Right.
This is totally voluntary and trying something, and try something that seems fairly easy
Yeah.
to you. may or may not be, but,
Right.
but start somewhere.
Yeah.
And then why do I do it? Because that's just the next thing that comes to my mind, but I have done
Tons of
probably,
it. Yeah, obviously.
who knows, many of these interviews. So, yeah, so even though you're scared, I'd still like you to try.
No, I will.
Okay, great. Yes, sure, oh, Meg, and then she,
I just wanted to ask you about process in a session. So like with Lenny, my gut feeling in the moment was like if she was really your client, you were gonna keep on going. Is there like a point at which the next step is to, or at some point in there, it's like, doing SEW with the persona, like, so to really, instead of just like asking the question and she's trying to figure out, I mean, obviously she's more articulate and had an ability to name, I think you asked her what feelings are around when you, I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but if somebody couldn't articulate that, would you help to get that persona in the body and get really clear about okay.
no, I wouldn't, because this is kind of one layer, and just like what Kim said, like, letting them direct that about how deep for it to go. It could last 3 minutes. It could be
Okay.
very fast, just a little drive-by, like, okay, a little dip in there. Because again, this is mucking in the unconscious, and people have different levels of wanting to go there or readiness to go there, so it doesn't have to go deeper than just the questions.
Okay. And how do you decide, like, if a person, besides like tracking their body language, how do you decide if they're like committed to not going there versus they're not emotionally stable enough to do so?
Well, as you've gotten to know me, you probably noticed that I'm not so concerned about whether they're emotionally stable enough to deal with it.
Okay.
Like with the guy yesterday, I thought, oh, I've never thought of this before. This must mean he's ready for this. I mean, I'm participating in his unconscious, and so if it's coming to my mind and we're doing it, no, I'm going to be tracking, but I wouldn't be so worried about it.
Okay.
I think part of the elegance of this interview is it's bringing things forward, but in a way that is pretty easy to tolerate. I mean, it still brings up feelings, but there's a framework around it that people can start to understand. Especially because, like, hanging out with Life is Too Hard, like suddenly now like I have a whole different experience of any part of you that's saying life is too hard. It's like, oh, right, that's a persona, thank you.
Yeah.
Like we can start to appreciate that part of you instead of making it wrong. Come on, Lenny, get through it. You're going to be okay, right? Any of that stuff has nothing to do with this persona. So
Yeah.
it gives a whole other way to be with these parts of us that are just there trying to get through. So I guess my message is it's going to be okay. Mostly people are fine with these.
It seems like there's also an inherent wisdom to them, and on some level.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah,
Oh
like
yeah.
the aspect of protection, and also like being anchored in there, and then realizing that there's a different choice, of not having to be that, but also like looking at the wisdom of those personas.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like as a young child, I can't really like butt heads with a raging alcoholic.
Right. That was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I can recognize that was then, this is now, and I probably don't have to worry about that right now.
Right, and to start to get that your body had to lock down on those impulses to rage,
Yeah.
and now it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So to unlock those
Yeah.
passageways.
I guess that's why I'm asking about the SEW, and I'm projecting from one of my own experiences, but to help a client like understand, bring their awareness to their body to help them understand like what it feels like in their body to lock down. For example, just sticking with you, Lenny, as opposed to like just talk about it, right?
Mhm.
Then if she actually feels it, then like tomorrow something is happening and she's like, oh my God, like I'm doing the thing in my body and it's about like something so minor or whatever that maybe her thinking mind, I think that's so redundant, her mind wouldn't be processing in that way, but suddenly she's noticing, oh my God, because it's been pointed out to her
Sure.
in her
Sure.
somatic experience.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to communicate is the persona interview is its own thing,
Okay.
and then do what you do
I see, okay,
with it.
okay.
But to let that be a beginning, middle, and end, and then, okay, now it's done, and now let's
Okay.
process what came up.
Okay, I see what you're saying, okay.
So I know that you have more comments, and so, but right now, I don't know if anybody needs to pee. If you do, pee, no. Or just find somebody and do persona interviews with them so that you basically know how this works. Okay, and we'll be fast, so like 5 minutes persona.
Cool.
And you'll switch. This is such a great tool, go interview people.
Do 10 minutes.
Do more.
Okay.
So what happened? What did you think, and what questions came up as you were using this?
Do you want to go first, Monique? You said your hand up first.
Oh, go ahead.
I had the sense that my persona was very strongly not letting me feel something, but I couldn't feel what it was because it was pretty good at its job. And just
Good.
was like, no.
Great, yeah. Bravo. Yeah, and there's a great example of, so you could just hang out with that. You don't have to push through it, it's like, no, yay persona. Monique?
Oh, so what in my own personal experience, I've done 2 really big ones, like one being today and then one that we did with when you were out of town and Robbie was here. And one of the things that really helped me, because my first persona was kamikaze fuck up, and I held the position in such a tight way that I was like, wow, I do this unconsciously a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask that question, I think that physicality, because you start to notice all the sensations in the body, at least for me, and how I like walk around the world like in a sort of unconscious armored way, and what the energetic of that puts out. And so I really appreciate, like, and I was intensely holding it on purpose when we were doing kamikaze fuck up, in such a way that I was like, wow, like it just, like energetically it hit me in a different way, and also that whole body, like all the sensations, where it was tight, like even how I walk, how my hips move, it was incredible. So I really like the fact that it's a body experience. It was really valuable.
Great. Yes. Cool.
Yeah, so this persona that I thought was just kind of, it's a simple one called Supermom. Oh my gosh, way deeper than I realized. And I also realized that it went back to, because I've only done the persona interview, I did the one with you, and then I did the one with the mask play, but it ended up being the same persona. But I connected that there's a common root. The return was to the same incident, the same age. So I was curious about that. Like, I wonder, as I continue to explore this, if it's going to return to kind of that same common root, like taproot.
Right.
It's like, boom, that's what's been running your show and showing up in all these fragmented pieces. So, yeah, there was a lot of depth there. Way more depth than I realized.
Than you thought, yeah.
Yeah, by
Beautiful.
far. So,
Yeah.
wow.
I have 2 questions about the one with her. One thing that came up is there was like 2 people that she got her style from, but one seemed more like the one to me. So like how do you as the whatever the therapist doing it, do you just let it stay with like, and we kind of left it as that it was both,
It's fine.
but you just stay at whatever they think kind of.
And some of those questions have a little more heft than others. That one is kind of like, well, yeah, my mom, oh yeah, my dad too, and my older
Well,
brother.
this one had definite heft to me.
So, just follow
Follow the
what your
person.
instincts.
I'll follow my
Your
instincts.
instincts.
Okay.
Go.
Okay,
Follow
that
where you
covers
wanna
both
go.
questions.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, because like, it was actually super cool, because it was one thing, but then what was underneath it, in my sense, and yours too, I think, was something totally different. That, you know, really, it felt like totally different. It was this wounded, you know, like, that was cool
Mhm.
to see.
Yeah.
Like, you could see that,
Like kind of a nesting, it sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if you're just working on, I don't want to be a supermom or whatever, then you never, there's a whole.
You never get to that stuff.
Because that's what we ended up rushing, because we took too long. And so the what do you most want, like her answer to it went back to the supermom answer. And that was when I said, are you sure? Because I didn't think that that was actually true.
That last question is a transitional question. It could
Yeah.
go, the persona might answer it, or the
persona
essence
answer.
might answer it.
There's the persona answer.
So it
Does that make
just-
sense?
Yeah.
And it could go either way.
And that's fine.
One
But
isn't better.
When I said, are you sure? And she still stuck with that, I was like, well, I'm not gonna, maybe it's
Oh,
true.
is that? Could be true.
I really liked the additional question you said after
wondered
what do you
about that.
most want, which
That last
was,
question?
if blank happened, what would you get?
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's like,
Kind of the underneath what one. It's like
Yeah.
the bottom line, foundational one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question. I know that all of us in this room, like probably when we're asked in a persona interview, what, you know, whatever persona, what feelings does your presence keep the rest of you from feeling? We can all probably are equipped to answer that question. But I guess I'm just projecting, imagining that there's going to be a lot of people that sit in our offices that don't know how to answer that question.
Well, again, it's, you can just, they can say, I don't know. Or they could say, happy. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't?
Nope.
So why ask it?
What I mean is their answer doesn't really matter. How deep they go doesn't matter. Just like I would want you to trust yourself to just try it out.
Okay.
Yeah, and see what happens. What you're both doing together is shining light on, here's something they thought was them,
Uh-huh.
and now you're saying, oh, this is not you.
Right.
That's this part
Got
that
it.
came out when you most needed it. Isn't that cool?
Got it. Okay.
So that whatever else happens out of that, oh, that's bonus.
Okay.
But that's the whole point of this.
Okay.
Is saying, that is not you.
Got it.
Which is very much of a relief for people. It's confusing.
No, I'm glad you said that because I was focusing a lot more on the process than like just the overall objective
Yeah.
of separating.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the overall objective. And to separate it, and also to start to have some new appreciation for the personas, like
Sure.
what I've been saying, like, okay, way to go, thank you.
Yeah.
To start to have a whole different experience, because mostly these are things that people want to make go away. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be worried about sugar anymore. I don't want to see life this way as, life is too hard. So I just want to make that go away. But if you start to see the personas as being so essential to their survival, it's like, no, don't make them go away. I didn't bring out my persona dolls, but that's a really fun thing to do, is dress up your dolls as your personas. Because then, if you imagine my doll, then it could be like, oh, I know, I have one that's called my Exploder. It's like, oh, new Exploder, thank you so much for being there for me.
It's a
Instead
really,
of fighting against it and making it wrong. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that explosion thing again. What's the matter with me?
yeah, it's a very interesting thing just having going through this in my own personal therapy. Like when you're at, I'm just like, yeah, how to help somebody get comfortable with these parts of themselves. In addition, like once they notice them, then helping them get comfortable with them instead of wanting to, okay, and keeping on rejecting them.
Which is confusing to people because they're coming to see you because they want these things to stop. At least that's what it looks like.
Right.
So it seems like, but then you're pushing uphill because they can't let them stop. So let's go back to this. Gases. Remember that? And baby. Ooh, something happens. Feelings.
through the feeling.
Then I go back to essence, good. Oh, but I'm not going to, so I'm going into my persona. But then there's this whole other step. Because the whole point of my persona is to not do this, right?
Right.
I'm invested. Therefore, now I'm going to project upon the world from my persona. Now this is where things get very topsy-turvy. Because if you start with the persona, which is life is hard. Did I have the right words? Life is too hard?
Life is hard, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. Either
So,
one works.
Life is hard. And the whole point of life is hard is to not feel angry and sexual or something like that,
Yeah.
right? I'm trying not to. Well, how is life is hard going to see the world?
That it is hard.
It's hard.
It's hard,
And how dare it be so hard?
right?
Yeah. I came here for some fun, damn it.
Yeah, but it turns out life is just hard.
And perpetual.
And
like,
other
victim,
people,
so, like,
and other
everything's
people are
happening
making
to
it
them.
hard.
And other people are making it hard, those hard maker of lives. Right?
And Scott Peck says it's hard.
That's right. We've got evidence that it's hard.
Right? It's the first sentence of his book. Life is hard.
Life is hard.
Right? And so suddenly, this persona has a whole world that it believes. And it has evidence. And it can sit and talk to other people who have other personas that say, I know, it's true.
Yeah.
Life really is hard. Right? Because your personas are like trying to not feel angry and sexual because you're sitting in class all week. Yeah, it sucks. Right? But look, all that's happening is we're hanging out in projection. We are way far away from this. So remember your circles, they look like this. So the persona is here. You require this. This is the bottom part of the circle is what do you require? How do you require life to show up? Now this is a little tricky late Friday afternoon. So let's just hang out because this is, think of it, this is bizarro land, as it really is. Because therapists, we want to work with this. We end up working with the projection. Okay, Lenny, let's figure out your life so it's not so hard. Clearly, it's been very hard, so let's make it like, right? So we're participating in the projection.
Or you're trying to like force them to not have that.
Yeah, that's right. But they're saying, nuh-uh, my persona requires life to show up this way.
Right.
You stupid therapist. Just do your best, but no way, because this persona is locked in place.
So can you say the wording of the required part again? Question, what are you requiring?
Yes, how do you require
How do you
life to
require-
show up so that you can maintain your persona?
I'm just thinking, no wonder therapists burn out.
Exactly, because we're like, come on, no, Lenny. Let's go run through the fields. I can't. Don't make me have chronic pain. I'll wheel you through the fields.
One more time on the wording, sorry. How do you require?
Life to show up.
Life
so
to
that-
show up so you can maintain the persona.
Aha.
So you get your committee going.
Yeah.
This is
Committee
like your
members.
unconscious.
See, now I'm
commitment.
getting
This is your
Okay.
unconscious
Now I'm
commitment.
getting defensive because I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
people are no. Well, I don't want to be judged
No,
for
I
my
know.
persona. 'cause
No, I
it's
know.
like-
I'm just ribbing you a little too hard, so.
that's okay.
That's all right. What persona was that? So we just did a persona interlock. So mine was, I don't want to be a meanie. Some version of that. Don't be a meanie. And your persona was that you said that's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
If
You can be a meanie. Right, so that was just a persona. Well, that was
Yeah.
totally inauthentic of both of
I
us.
noticed it was.
Yeah, so that was cool.
That is so cool. I just thought of that.
So
Persona to persona.
that part feels like it's probably harder for people to get to.
Oh my God, this is like, could we even hang out with this? So let's
I'm loving
try it
this.
out.
I'm loving this part.
Yeah, this is like, wow, this is the inner sanctum. Like if you can really get this is gonna change your life as a therapist.
Yes.
Because instead of trying to make people stop having this whole thing, and you put all your effort into this, you can be like, yippee, persona, thanks for showing up. Oh, this is what you require, that's so interesting.
Well, the reason why I know it's true is because of what happened that time with Ariel that I told you guys about with the lateness. Because it has actually not come up again. And I'm talking, we're...
Years.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have broken up if I met you.
Well, I know.
Seriously.
I know.
Like, seriously.
I understand.
Because it's like getting to 100% responsibility.
Yes.
Okay.
It's saying, oh, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
It's not happening to me. It looks like life is just happening to me, but, oh, I'm the one doing this, so I don't have to have feelings. So let's find out.
If you look at it that way.
So what does
Like
Supermom
flex.
require? How does Supermom require the world to show up?
Oh, what was that? It's just hard.
Mom.
I mean, it never ends. There's always demands.
There's always these demands.
I mean, God.
Jeez.
Can't
Right?
these kids take care of their own?
These kids.
Yeah, that's a part of it.
These kids today. Yeah, so then we could sit and talk about these kids and like try to get these kids to step up.
I have a question.
But the persona's gonna be like, no, because I'm trying to keep her from feeling this.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question about that real quick? So you're trying to keep going being the best mom,
Yes.
and she can do that
No matter what.
because as long as there's demanding kids.
Yeah, that's
Is that
right.
right?
Otherwise, there would be no need for the persona.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And
But but this persona, my son is moving to France in 2 months.
What's she gonna do now? The
Okay.
persona's out of a job. Wah! You'll have to follow him.
she's got two sons.
I have 2, but yeah,
Oh,
he
okay.
lives with me right
All right. Phew.
She'll get a
So
job.
what's another one? What's another persona? So what does Jean require?
Well, I didn't work on Jean.
Okay.
I worked on I'm not lovable.
Okay, great. So what does I'm not lovable require?
What do you mean require?
Yeah, great.
To keep going? Like the evidence that I'm not, like, people don't love me.
Yeah.
You
Right?
don't have a man in your life? That's what I'm looking at right now, but it's just the
So
other
like
things.
critical people,
Critical people, men.
cold,
My
critical cold men.
classmates don't love me.
Classmates, me,
That's
classmates.
an old one. I let that one go a while ago.
Right, but
Other
to
people
keep,
being in a bad
right,
mood.
because, so what do we complain about? Those
Yeah.
critical cold men. Don't you know men, they're so critical and cold. Yeah. I know, they are.
Yeah.
Statistics
Yeah.
show that.
You
These
get to a
days.
certain age.
Yeah, that's right, that's just how it is. Right? And so all I'm doing is joining with you in this, right? So that you don't have to have your feelings.
Yeah.
So then the perspective of the persona then is creating the reality, and then
Yes.
you're looking only for the false bases of evidence.
Yes.
That make it the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes,
Right,
because they will keep
yes.
showing up because I will find those.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a great quote about that, but I can't remember it. You're
So
looking
it-
for
so the-
blah, blah, blah. That's
do it. It's not them.
Persona is,
No, you go.
so the persona makes us feel feelings, but not makes us feel the feelings we actually want to feel.
Right. It looks like we're having feelings.
Ah.
I can't stand those men. I'm really mad at those men that are so cold and critical. It looks like I'm having
So
feelings.
crazy, Julie. Oh my god.
Isn't this cookie?
Oh my
This is
God.
cookie
So
land.
great. So great. So I'm just curious, like, if I'm your client right now, like, how do you? Because I maybe you sometimes you do draw this on the board or whatever, but I'm really curious, like, so say you have someone who's really stuck or really unwilling is more the thing, right? Because it's
Yeah.
a willingness. So they're saying all this stuff, right? Like, men, cold, critical, yeah, yeah, Julie, that's what it is.
Right.
Like, how do I don't
Research supports that.
yeah. So I'm just curious, like, yeah, what do you do with the person in front of you?
Well, so some of the time I start to get pulled into that. So I'll go back to the guy I was talking about because it's been several months, maybe 9 months. He is such a fuck up. it's true, okay, let's do all the things, I've tried lots of different things. Oh, persona is called, what was this persona's name? Something like failure or something like that. I can't do this. I give up. Persona's called I give up. And the irony for me in the beginning of the call was I was thinking, I think I'm giving up on this guy.
Wow.
I don't know what I can do.
Interesting.
And so it was like, yeah. So we're in that. So finally it's like, oh, I started talking to him about unconscious commitments, and then we got to that point. Oh, it's a freaking persona. Woo! See, so I was so pulled in, I couldn't even see it as a separate part of him. But when did it make its first appearance? Oh, well, middle school. And I started hearing all about middle school, what he was a class clown. He was like, I have all this energy. That's been my question. Where did his life energy go? I don't know where it is, because I gave up. I give up. I can't do anything. Okay, so when you make your first appearance then, what was happening? Well, I was being bullied. There's one kid, he told me the story about giving this kid the middle finger, and then he raced away and ran. He knew, oh God, thank God I got into this room with the teacher, because that saved me, and he would have beaten the crap out of me. It's like, yeah, that's what the world was that he was living in. I had to be a man. Men don't have feelings. I'm the sensitive guy, but men don't have feelings, persona. All right. So as long as I give up happens, he didn't have to feel his sexuality, his anger started floating around, but his sensitivity, his kind of heart, just him, the himness. It's like, oh, we were both like, oh, right, there's that. And I could see his essence for the first time ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that was in him. Yeah. It was brilliant. It was beautiful.
Did he shift after that?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. That was the end of the call. So I don't know. But I think we were both kind of like, whoa, because we got to hear.
Because you don't really need, I mean, like probably someone is going to shift, but it feels like it's dangerous to have that be the goal. It's almost like you just don't know what happens. Right?
Well, this, yes, springs, because look, it comes, is it the goal? I'd say ultimately,
Yeah, it is the goal.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, can't make anything happen, for sure.
And maybe, do you have to go back? Do you find that you might, like someone does an essence thing and they go where they can go, but do you sometimes go back and try to do it again? Or do you ever go to that persona again?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. To say, so how's, now I've forgotten his name. I can't do it. I give up. I give up. How is I give up? Because again, this is such a great example. He so believed it, so embodied I give up, that I just thought that was true. And so I was engaging with that part of him as if it were true. Well, if it's not, if that isn't who he is, for both of us to kind of get out of that illusion of, oh, that isn't him. Like he was as surprised as I was that wasn't him. Maybe probably a lot more surprised, because he really identifies with that so strongly.
For so long.
For so long. Because it solved so many problems for him.
Well, it's not going to let him go easily either.
Right. No. Yeah.
And could you talk a little bit more about unconscious
Yeah.
commitments?
Yes, and we'll have a whole symposium
Okay.
about that. I
Okay.
don't know when it is, it's a little while
Okay.
from now. Well, it's a different way to get to the same thing. So yay, and Katie Hendricks for that. But this is like, I give up is committed unconsciously to giving up and to being a fuck up, because it solves the problem of his sexuality and sensitivity, etc. So that would be an example of being committed unconsciously. So you can get into that from a different angle.
Okay.
But this is one angle to get to it from. The projection is the unconscious commitment.
So it's kind of like, it's like a part of what you require life to show up, how you require life to show
Yes.
up, is your unconscious commitment.
Yes.
It's your part of it.
Yes. It is wild. Yeah, and again, like this will make the difference between you, I think, well, I'll speak for myself, get out of projection for a second, between me loving my work and hating my work. Because hating it was, not hating, it might be strong, but being so tired from it, like, oh God, this is like a slog. Because I would be so caught in this. But finding this is like finding gold. So I feel about that session like, oh, there he is. Whoa, freedom, essence. Oh.
Do you ever have where you're there, you're like, yes, this is, you know, and say, let's use him as an example, but do you ever, so you get it, you're like, oh yeah, this is persona, we're gonna work with this, and you're working with it, blah, 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 and you get to this part about like unconscious commitment or the, what is the requirement?
Yes.
And you're asking them like, what does life require you to, you know, required of life in order for you to be this way or whatever. Do you meet a lot of resistance there? Like, or when you do, how do you work with that?
Well, just like today, when I said, okay, get ready, this really is a strange place for people to walk around in. Because you're walking around in the unconscious. So, and for a little while, it's kind of like, okay, here, sure, we can do this. But suddenly, kind of like, what? Wait, it's kind of like, what? Like what you're saying, like, this is wild, wait, what? It's like a dream, coming out of the dream and in 5 seconds not remembering a bit of it.
Yeah.
So to expect that, because we have an unconscious for a reason, to put this stuff over there, to not know about any of this. We just think this is life.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I'm projecting because I'm thinking about my dad, I'm thinking about my own defensiveness, that when you ask a question like that, right, you are directly putting all the responsibility on the client, and they know that, right? When you ask the question like, how does the world have to be like? At least for me, it's immediately like, oh yeah, I'm responsible. I don't want to be responsible. So I guess I'm just imagining that like, and I just look into our culture that taking responsibility is really hard for people. It's not something people want to do very easily. So that's why I was just asking, like, if it comes up a lot where you get a defense, if you get experience a lot of resistance or a lot of defensiveness in that place and how you work with it, or if by the time they've gotten there, most people are willing to take their responsibility and keep moving.
I don't know, and yeah, it's a big deal. So just mucking around, like, okay, what do you think? And then we leave it. Like,
Got it.
we don't have to fight against it.
Okay.
Don't need to fight against any of
Distraction.
this. Just trying it out, touching it in.
Cool.
But understand that the more responsibility I take, the more power I have.
Yeah.
So that is a bonus. Life isn't happening to me. There's something I can do about it.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, whew, that's the best.
Feels like part of the maybe key for me is really that the persona is not being made wrong.
Yeah.
The persona is being made right.
Yeah.
Part
of you. Yeah.
And that to me feels like where there's room to take responsibility in most people, at least, because you're not, like when I think about, like seriously in the community, I think my teacher did some real, he pulled out personas, but he made them as wrong as he possibly could. Like evil wrong, like bad wrong.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like it makes me think about, well, myself, but other people too. I mean, he would give people names that you had to walk around with. I never had one, but.
So shaming.
So shaming, so it makes me wonder about myself and these other people too, who kind of saw personas, but actually they were only made wrong. Because what that would do then would just make the persona more in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
You just have to hide.
Yeah.
And then it's going to pop out at the worst times.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how important the making the persona right is.
Yeah.
Like it feels super right.
Really important.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that again.
Sure, yes.
So like first of all, I'm really defensive about the question because I'm worried I'm gonna get judged. People will be like, oh, she's creating her own illness so she can get wheeled through the fields. But
That was my
but
fantasy.
I know. I saw all the flowers.
Oh, I know, would have been fun. Fun ride.
But pushing that aside, the thing that came up for me is things need to be easier, or life needs to be easier. So would I then try to make my life harder, or would I say, how do I make life easy for myself?
Well, I would take it from a different angle. So when I first started working with adolescents, my supervisor gave me this great piece of wisdom. She said, you can't influence something you don't have a relationship with. So first create a relationship with these kids. So same thing, first create a relationship with life is too hard, with that persona. And then talk to it, like be with it, be like, I know life really was hard, and tell me more, and like come to the table.
Yeah.
And hang out with you, and then let's try to figure this out, because I know, I'm just exaggerating here.
Yeah.
But life was hard, or too hard, so you really protected me by not letting me feel anger and sexuality. Well, what do you think now? Could we loosen up that a little bit? Would that be okay with you? So you're working with it, it's a collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the statement, are you willing to feel as blank as you?
Yeah, and life is too hard could say, well, that's really scary, and you could say, well, okay, well, let's take it slowly. How about just a little bit?
Right.
Yeah, this isn't, I'm so glad you said that, Kim. This is the opposite of making it wrong, because,
That's what we've already done.
oh my God, exactly.
Yeah.
And people feel so much shame in relationships. This is huge personas. To start to see this, each other through those eyes. Oh, this is a persona of yours. I thought it was you. I totally remember a moment with Kathy where that came. It was like, oh, it changed everything for me. Oh, I just thought you were just wanting to be an asshole. But once I saw how this developed, she didn't call it bitch of the universe. That's her persona. Like, oh, you have so much compassion. Like, oh, right. Totally makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So then instead of stop being that bad person, you bad person, it's like, no, let's let all the personas come out and be part of who we are. It's a lot more interesting, especially if we're not identified with them.
So like in your life, you can do that, like with your partner, at this point, like if that comes out.
Or not every time, but yeah. Oh, so and it doesn't come out very much, just like you said with Ariel. It's like
That's like,
it just isn't a thing in that way it was. It's had such a grip, and now it's like, oh yeah, that's just something that happens.
I'm wondering about addictions, and if there are personas in and of themselves, or combinations, like a number of different personas come to create that.
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
So it
know.
can be
I'd love
many
to hear
different
more. I mean, certainly I
combinations.
would interview the addiction as a persona, but, explore that with people, see what they think. Because for sure, an addiction is definitely about not feeling something. So, that could be very rich. All right, well, it's time for us to wrap up. So what completions do you have? Anything? This is one of those tools, like I said, I'll use it a lot, and then I'll sort of forget about it. It'll go into my own unconscious, and then I'll surprise myself, oh, right, I could be doing that right now. So, love this tool.
I know it sounds silly, like of course it would be like a compassionate process, but just like naming that to your client so that they don't have an experience, well, obviously he treated you, but differently. I'm just imagining how important, even if you are going through it in a, what seems like a compassionate way to you, to just like name out loud to your client that, they get to, embrace this part of themselves it just seems really key, I guess.
And as you could tell, like I'm modeling that, like, thank you so much to the persona. I really appreciate what you did.
It's so true, because then they're,
cool.
like Lenny was more willing to keep engaging and seeing it, right?
Of course.
Well, yeah, because there is so much shame
Right.
around them. I keep imagining that scene in Being John Malkovich, where there's like a whole bunch of John Malkoviches that look different, and they're like, but they're all saying Malkovich. Like what that's like when you start hanging out in a room with all your personas.
Well, exactly, yeah, that's a fun Saturday night, right there, yeah. Have a dinner, have a party.
I did a couple, a workshop about 6 years ago where we talked a lot about personas, but not in this context. And what they had us do is like we had to actually have a bag that we carried our personas around in.
Aw.
And we, what we did was we collected like little puppets. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but it really helps, and it makes it more fun. Like it makes it more of an interactive kind of play. And also the way that people could play with it a little bit more and more accepting into their personality, it really helped. So maybe that's just an idea.
Oh, yeah, we've had persona parties, fun. You know, and you can just, for Halloween, you just run and change your clothes into the next persona. Like as the next one comes over. That's a lot of fun. A group that was here a few years back, they got dressed up in their personas and walked through the Pearl Street Mall and being in their personas, acting from that place. Yeah, so going into it, having more fun with them, letting them be part of you and really appreciate it. All right, that's about projection. So, so coming back to essence, and how you can move back through remembering it's about the feelings. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.